This stuff here in Yerushalmi Orlah. In the article Osber edition, we're on Mamish the top of the Dad Amid Aleph, Halacha Hey, Halim Balufanim, which includes three Mishnayos, Shazayim, Mishnah Ches, and Mishnah Tes, and goes all the way to the bottom of Amid Aleph. And we are in the Vilna on Zayin and Beis, Halacha Hey, same Mishnah. Halim Balulavim, the leaves and the shoots. These are soft branches come out at the end of the harder branches. Me'agfanim, and not to be confused with grape juice, is a moisture which comes out of the grapevines when you cut them in the springtime. Cut the grapevines. Vlasmadar, and the flower from which the fruit will eventually come, but before the fruit develops. Mutan Orlah, they have no problem, no issues with Orlah or Ravai, and no kadosh with that Ravai. Over Nazir, they're not prohibited for Nazir. Basurim Ba'ashera, and they are, the tree is worshipped by Azor. These are also Ba'na, because they're part and parcel of the tree. Rabbi Yossi Omer Hasmadar Asor Nesha Bri. Rabbi Yossi says no, even though it's just a flower form, but this is the smadar is considered to be the fruit, I guess, in progress. So therefore, it is also on account as orla and also usher for a nazir. Rabbi Elazar Hamamid Bisraf for orla usher. If you use the sap of the tree of an orla tree to make cheese. Evidently, it's an enzyme which solidifies the cheese, so solidifies the milk. It's also that's considered to be the sap is considered to be like a fruit. Depends. The sap of the leaves or the sap which comes from the roots is permitted. But srap pagim is only the sap which comes from the unripe fruit, which is from the fruit itself, not the smadar, the fruit itself, but in an unripe stage. That's awesome neshuperi because it's obviously a fruit. Uncool close. These are grapes that got ruined before they got to a third of their growth. These are the seeds of the grapes. Vazogim, and the skins of the grapes. Vatemechlem, water which you put on the dregs or the seeds. The seeds or the peels, and they got the taste of they got a taste of wine. The water got a taste of wine. So the klipe rimon, the peels of pomegranate, vanechelo, the flower at the top of pomegranate, the peels of nuts, vagarinin, and the seeds, actually, I guess it's seeds of other fruits, not seeds of nuts, because nuts have seeds. Asur barla, also barla, bashera, uven nazir, if it's some grapevine, obviously, umutar b'ravai, but they don't have a status of ravai, because netavai is like ma'aser sheni, has to be something suitable to eat, not something which is also for an orla on account of some other reason. As Gemara is going to say, these things are also because of esperio, and from es you learn a tofela perio, things that are subordinate to the fruit. It's also because anything from the cherem, not just the fruits. So by Nazir it says which are all ancillary to the fruit itself. But for Ravai, just like Ma'asheni, has to be the fruit itself. Otherwise, it's not Ravai, just like it can't be Ma'asheni. Hanovos, this is a fruit which falls from a tree before it becomes fully ripe. Kulan Asuros, they're all Osir. In other words, Osir and Orla and Ravai, Nazir, or Ashera. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Nodim Jichel Shel Orla. Rabbi Yossi says you're allowed to plant a branch of an Orla tree because the tree itself is not Osir, but no, only the fruit. Ego Shel Orla, however, you can't plant a nut from an Orla tree because they should pre. Because the nut is a fruit. You can't graft a tree which has kafnios of Orlah because they are unripe. You can't graft it into these like unripe dates. You can't graft them into a regular date tree because they are fruits, and you might come to eat from them. And obviously, they've already become Orlah. I guess they grew on a different tree, and now you're transplanting them on a larger, older tree. You still can't eat them because they grew as Orlah. Okay, says the Gemara. The leaves and the shoots, which we said in our Mishnah. My sister look Rabbi Eliezer. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Eliezer, because our Mishnah says these are mutter for a nazir. The time Shem Eliezer said, "Kol asher yasemi gefen hayayin mechatzanim v'ladzag lo yochal." Everything that can be made from the grapevine, from the seeds to skins, should not eat. You should not eat afalim b'lovim masha. That includes also according to Rabbi Eliezer, the leaves and the shoots. The he brings down here the Yerushalmi of Bryce, the Bryce, which is the Bavli Nazalam down, and Yerushalmi also. There in Nazir. Lesson learns in this passage. He learns that the ribu you mute. So as opposed to pratu cloud to include cloud prat, in order to include alim v'lulavim, even though they're not kain or prat, which would be things which have to do with fruit itself. He learns them like as a ribu mute, and no ribu mute is always more inclusive, and therefore he also includes the alim and lulavim. Tiny Rabbi Yossi Omer Smadar Asur. We said Smadar is forbidden. All the Mefarshim add here, based on Yerushalmi Nazir as well. Bin Nazir, Ibnei Shu Pri. Also to Nazir because it's a fruit. The Kashim also bin Nazir, Lamali Pri. So the question is, well, if it's if you're going to say it's if only it's Asur bin Nazir, so then you shouldn't say it's a fruit. Because by Nazir it's also because of, you just said, so therefore, why you mentioned that it's fruit? Again, because im also ben Nazir, lamali pri, im priu, and if it's a fruit, you also should be also everything, not just by Nazir. Why did I say specifically Nazir? Should be everything else. Rabbi Yitzchak Shah, asks, Man Tana Emer Kima Kafnil Orlah. Who is the author of that statement, which is stated in our Mishnah that you can't do harkava with, you can't graft the actually, the question whether the Gemara answers this question here. Yes, it does. The problem is I skipped a line. Rabbi Yitzchak's statement indicates that Rabbi Yossi held was also in everything, not just Ben Nazir. In fact, the word Ben Nazir, which doesn't appear here in Gemara Orlah, but of course it doesn't help with it doesn't work the Shak of Atari here, because if the word Nazir didn't appear here, then what's the question? But it would be like Rabbi Yitzchak. It would make sense that the word Nazir is deleted because Rabbi Yitzchak Shom Man Tana Ema Kim Kafni Orlah. It says who's the Tana who said that you can't do arkava with Kafni Orlah? Rabbi Yossi. And he said it's Rabbi Yossi because he says that smadar is considered to be a fruit, and also he's the one who holds that kafnios, which are these dates which are never going to ripen, also are not considered to be fruit. Are considered to be fruit. Sorry, smadar is going to be fruit. Kafnios is going to be fruit. So he says, we learn not just by Nazir, but anything which is edible from the tree in even a remote way, whether it's the alim loving like Rabbi Eliezer said, or it's the smadar like Rabbi Yossi says, and according to Rabbi Yossi, it says Rabbi Yitzchak, and not just by these two, but even by kafnios. In other words, it's true, Rabbi Eliezer addressed wine, a grapevine. So Rabbi Yossi addressed and Rabbi Yossi addressed smadar. And it could be Rabbi Yossi doesn't agree with Rabbi Eliezer about alim loving. Maybe it's only smadar because it's specifically something which is going to develop into be fruit. But he does learn out from kosher and semi gefen yain, and that will extend therefore from smadar, which is by the by grapevines, says Rabbi Yitzchak, to any type of fruit which is not completely edible, but eventually could be edible, or perhaps even it's not going to be edible, but is classified as fruit. That is also part and parcel of what we learn out, which includes smadar and anything like it in any type of tree. So it's also about kol. Okay, now we have a new thing. Tani, pre of neta ravai. Atapoide. Venta podelo boser velo pagim. You can't redeem boser, which is unripe fruit, pagin. So these are the two types of my fruit. You can't redeem them. Evidently, there's the advantage of redeeming them is that you redeem for cheap. Right, so and then you would get off the hook easy. It's much less than redeeming the actual full-size fruit. So therefore, it says, "No, you can't do that. If you want to harvest them, eat them, Yerushalmi, go ahead, but you can't redeem them at that stage." Okay? So again, Tai Priyata by the Busla Pogim. Hore Rabbi Zvida Beilam Pagi Tomorrow Shei Kavru. You said that if you have Pagi tomorrow in our day and age, when you can't redeem them. Can't eat them in Yerushalmi. So what are you going to do? These unripe dates. You just have to you have to bury them. They don't burn either. Rabbi Yonah boy. Rabbi Yonah asked, "Over Ptoyo, but you have it if you did go and redeem it. Shemana Potri is not redeemed. The Tamer Ton Kforin, you say Bisman has to be buried. In other words, why can't you just let him b'diavad? You're assuming that even b'diavad you can't redeem them. B'diavad should be redeemed. And therefore, when you can't redeem there's no eitzah, you can't bring up the Yerushalmi. So we should rely on the b'diavad, and therefore you can be able to redeem them and not have to bury them. So the article actually before I put in a header which I glossed over, but revive v'chulei for a tiny priyata poida, and here he also puts in a header. But Rabbi Shur Shamati, so it's going back on the Mishnah. Rabbi v'chulei, it says. Rabbi Shua said that the mami b'sraf ha'alim b'sraf yikorim is mutter b'sraf ha'pagin osim neshu pri. So in that, this is going and saying, the Gemara is saying here, Rabbi Das, Rabbi Yossi, B'Shem, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shua said, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yeshua, Amru Davar Echad. Rabbi Shua in our Mishnah and Rabbi Shimon said the same thing. Tamati, you learn Rabbi Shimon, ain't katav l'shvius. There's no shmita by ktaf, which is sraf, the sap of shvius, and nation and a pri. So the sap of the tree is not a pri, according to both Rabbi Shua and our Mishnah and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Zia, Rabbi Das, Rabbi Zia said, Rabbi Das, K'mon Temer Taman Halacha, and here's live change of your souls here. Temer Halacha Rabbi Yoshua, it should be. Halacha Rabbi Shimon. Okay, so do we say, just since he said Dover Echad, just like Rabbi Yeshua, looks like Rabbi Yeshua in our Mishnah, we say by Shemitah that Halachos Rabbi Shimon. The problem is Rabbi Shimon is Das Yochid there in Shemitah, and the Mishnah in Shvius, as against Tana Kama, who seem to be Rabbanan. He brings down here in the parentheses that Chacham and Taman and Yerushalmi are often reversed. So Kamar the Tamer Taman, meaning here Halacha Rabbi Yoshua and Hacha Halacha Rabbi Yeshimon. I don't notice these things anymore, but yeah, there's a Halacha and Taman reversed. And he explains why. But okay, so now comes along Rabbi Yonah rejects this. Rabbi Yonah says V'damihi. They're comparable to each other, not comparable. Our case, we could pass on Rabbi Yeshua, that who said that Amami b'sraf alam b'sraf yikorim mutar, b'sraf pagin osmin neshu peri, and not passing Rabbi Shimon, who says ein l'ktav shis m'nei she'eino peri. Why? And here's the next line. Everybody has difficulty with the girsa. How exactly to read the next line, how to interpret it. So I'm going to go with the Lev Yerushalmi in the name of the Rash, even though that too requires a little bit of a steam shovel in order to make it work. Is the way he has the next one is kol davar batay de sirfo. In the ain't about day sirfo. Now, like we find Yerushalmi, it means the opposite of what it says. Just like the Taman and Hacha are different, so to here it's the opposite as well. It means that everything, kol davar batay de sarfo, anything, the sraf is batel. The sraf is not the ikar of pri, and therefore by or it's not considered to be the same status of the pri. If this the pri is orla, fine, but the sraf which comes from the tree is not orla, because it's the orla is own, and all the resting things mentioned are mishnah are din and peiros, and therefore the sraf is batel. So that's called our batay de sarva means the sarv is batel. It's not part and parcel of the fruit, it's something else, and because it's part of the wood. So therefore, it's not, doesn't have all the halachas of our Mishnah. But Elaine, by Shvius, ain't about day sarfo. It's not but the sraf is not batel, because Shvius is a different parameter. By Shvius we have things which have kedusha Shvius even though they're not ikar peri. I'll bring you a raya, says Rabbi Yoina. Rabbi Yoina says ochle beima, animal food. Kedusha Shvius chaleim. Kedusha Shvius takes effect on ochle beima. Ain't kedusha orlah chaleim. Kedusha Shvius does not. The kedusha orlah. I'm sorry. Kedusha Shvius chaleim ain't kedusha orlah chaleim. Right. The kedusha Shvius takes effect on ochle behema, even though kedusha orlah doesn't affect them. So the Leib Yerushalmi explains Shvius applies also to behema because anything shanosa b'yura shava has din Shvius. Now, for the end of Sukkah, we have this whole discussion about the Atzei Shvius, what they're used for, and so the broom can have Shmi Kedusha Shvius because it has, Hanosa B'Yura Shava. It's not, the parameter of Shemitah is not based on the fruit, but based on whatever is a product of the tree, Hanosa B'Yura Shava. Where you get Hanoah at the same time you destroy it. So therefore, Sraf. There's Hanoah B'Yura Shava. Whatever you're using it for, it's like to use it as an enzyme, as a catalyst for making cheese. Hanoah B'Yura Shava. You're giving Hanoah at the time you're eliminating it, the time you're using it. So therefore, it's not the fact we pass going to be Yeshua by Orlah and other halachas that the Sraf is batel. It's because those are dinim and peros, and the Sraf is batel vis-a-vis those halachas. By Shvius, it doesn't apply. By Shvius, the Sraf is not batel. Because there's a parameter, whatever, it's also be Shava, which emerges from the tree, which emerges from the ground, which emerges from the growth, I should say. It's not just by trees, which emerges from any growth, emerges from the ground, has kedusha Shvius. Okay, so therefore, by fact, Paskin Rabbi Shua over there doesn't mean like Paskin Rabbi Shimon over here, doesn't mean like Paskin Rabbi Shimon over there. Okay, the Gemara says. There's another chiluk. Which the other chiluk? Rabbi Yeshua Amra Shmua. Rabbi Yeshua says Shamati in our Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon, B'Shem Garmeim. Rabbi Shimon says in his own name. And if Rabbi Shimon said in the sheet of Rabbi Yeshua, he must have should have said the lush of Shamati. He doesn't say Shamati. It must be that the halachas is derived from somewhere else, and therefore he doesn't give a svara, but he says the halachas are not the same halachas. Therefore, we paskin like Rabbi Shua here. It's not a halacha. We should paskin Rabbi Shimon over there.